I learned from a lot of leaders while I was going through 26 years in prison, and I think that you could also learn lessons from those same leaders who taught me. I'm from Seattle, so I'm somewhat familiar with Bill Gates and his statement very early on at the start of Microsoft saying, I envision a world where every house and every office has a computer. When he made that statement, it was a very unusual statement to make because computers were then massive projects that occupied entire rooms and cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and very few people could comprehend what Bill Gates comprehended. Because he could see the outcome, he could architect a strategy that would lead him to get that result. And that's what we have now. I mean, I'm sitting in my home where I probably have 15, maybe 20 different computers. I use them every day. You use them every day. And the world has changed because of his vision. Similarly, if you read Stephen Covey's really classic book on personal development, one of his 7 habits of highly effective people is to begin with the end in mind. So if you are going into the prison system, I want you to think about the end. What is the best outcome at the other side of this journey? If you could figure that out, you could start architecting or engineering a plan that will get you there. And one of the things that you want to do is position yourself to get the highest level of liberty at the soonest possible time. And that may include placement in home confinement. But home confinement is still governed, at least in August of 2025, by the halfway house. Now, the halfway house is not a direct filled with employees of the Bureau of Prisons. It's a contract facility. So the Bureau of Prisons issues what's called a request for proposal, and then contractors like Core Civic or Geo Group or MTC will submit proposals to operate a halfway house in a region or an area. And that halfway house is typically like an old hotel or an apartment building that they've retrofitted with some security protocols. They staff it with people who are case managers or administrators, and those people will oversee how much liberty you get. And it's not quite as it's not nearly as restrictive as a prison, but neither is it as comfortable as home confinement. So you want to be thinking about, well, how can I engineer my path to get the earliest access to halfway house and earliest access to home confinement? And the reality is you have to start building that body of work very early in the journey. I would argue, as the old saying says, when's the best time to plant an oak tree? It's 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Today is the day, if you haven't done so already, to start building this path that will advance you as a candidate for the highest level of liberty at the soonest possible time. Now, if you think you're going into a high security prison or a medium security prison, then maybe the first step that you need to work toward is getting lower security if you're able to get to a low security prison or a minimum security camp. If you're in a low security prison or a minimum security camp, then you want to start engineering a path that will lead you or qualify you for access to the halfway house / home confinement at the earliest possible time. There are some factors you cannot control, such as your criminal history. But what you can control is the record that you build while you're serving your sentence. Now, one of the recommendations that I make to everybody who's going through our program is build a profile on prisonprofessors.org. It's free. In fact, everything at Prison Professors is free. I really discourage anyone from hiring a prison consultant, at least until you've invested the time and the energy to learn as much about this system as you can. There are a lot of shady characters out there that served 1 year in a minimum security camp and fancy themselves experts, but the only thing they're really an expert at is conniving you out of $5,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 or whatever it is they're charging. The reality is you are the CEO of your life. And if you want to get home at the soonest possible time, you want to just use your critical thinking skills and develop a pathway that will make you the best possible candidate for the earliest possible release date. And nobody can do that but you. You've got to architect that story. Your lawyer can't do it. You've got to do it. because this is an administrative process. And once you get into the prison system, it's really going to be about self-advocacy. And what do you know about self-advocacy in the Bureau of Prisons? If you don't know a lot, you could learn everything you want at prisonprofessors.org. We've developed an AI system that you could use for free. Just go to the bottom right. You'll see a little bubble. Enter your information and ask your questions, as many questions as you want. And if the answer isn't right what you like, I'm going to film a video that's going to give you the answer that you like, and you're not going to have to pay a penny for that. I always make 3 promises. I'll never lie to you. I'll never ask you to do something I didn't do, and I'll never charge you a penny for anything at prisonprofessors.org. I want you to develop a pathway to confidence that you could architect your strategy to the highest level of liberty at the soonest possible time, including getting out of prison and getting back into the community. Now, getting into the halfway house is only one step, but it is a necessary step that will qualify you for home confinement. You may never even have to sleep in the halfway house, but it's typically going to be, at least today, a case manager in the halfway house that will oversee your behavior while you're on home confinement. We're advocating for more changes so you could get out even sooner and you report back to a case manager. Instead of serving time in prison, you're serving time at home. But right now, in August of 2025, all of that advocacy work is still in development. And I'm going to do my part. I need you to do your part by avoiding disciplinary infractions and documenting your record so I can profile you as you climb up the leaderboard on prisonprofessors.org. And other people can advocate for you. You're going to want to build a coalition of advocates, all of whom are working to get you out at the soonest possible time. So there's a lot of different requirements that will qualify you for this, including your criminal history, the nature of your offense, the amount of time you have remaining to serve, your conduct in prison. You want to make sure that you keep a clean disciplinary record, and you can do it. I went through 9,500 days in prison and never had a disciplinary infraction that resulted in me losing a day of good time. Everything I did was always focused on emerging successfully. If you're eligible, you want to participate in programs that can help you, like the Residential Drug Abuse Program, First Step Back programs. I would really encourage you to work through our Preparing for Success After Prison program. You can start doing that right now just by finding it on the prisonprofessors.org website, start building your profile, and start demonstrating all of the reasons why you're a great candidate for a higher level of liberty at the soonest possible time. Now, your length of stay in the halfway house currently is going to depend on your eligibility under the First Step Act and the Second Chance Act. So typically, it's going to depend on how many credits you have earned while you're in prison. Under the Second Chance Act, the maximum amount of time you could spend outside of prison and in a halfway house is 12 months. However, under the First Step Act, you could accumulate credits that will qualify you for an earlier placement in halfway house. I've known people that have had many years. They got out of prison several years earlier, and they served their time in a home confinement / halfway house setting. You want to start building a pathway that will advance you as a candidate for that. Again, you don't need to hire any of these scammy prison consultants. Focus on your own education and building a record, because that's what's going to be the key. The key is going to be beginning with the end in mind and then building a body of assets that will advance you as a great candidate. Now, once you get to the halfway house or home confinement, it's not like you're free, but you do have a significantly higher level of liberty than when you're in prison. You get to eat real food. You get to have your phone. You might be able to go out and get a job. You might be able to spend weekends with your family at your home. You're just in the community. I had a phenomenal experience while I was in the halfway house and home confinement that really put me on the pathway to becoming financially successful very soon after I got out of prison. And I know that you can do the same. So you want to do everything you can to architect your pathway to the earliest possible admission to home confinement. And the way that you do that is you develop a body of work, a body of assets that documents all the things that you have done. Build your coalition of advocates who can advocate for you on your behalf, including our team at Prison Professors. We don't provide direct advocacy, because my work is changing the system, but I work with a lot of other organizations, and we'd be happy to recommend you so long as you've done the work and you've got a record that will advance you as a great candidate. So this is a critical step, is thinking about it and understanding it. You could learn a lot more just by going through all of the coursework. If you on Prison Professors, read about my own journey. And you will see, well, how did he do that? How did he do that? Just ask the questions on our AI chatbot, and you'll get the answers to those questions. If you want to participate in an interactive webinar, I recommend you visit my sponsor, Justin Paperny. He hosts one every week at whitecollaradvice.com/nonprofit. I'll always make you 3 promises. I'm never going to lie to you. Never going to ask you to do anything I didn't do. Never going to charge you a penny for anything at Prison Professors. My name is Michael Santos. I'm the founder of Prison Professors. I hope that you will subscribe to our newsletter at prisonprofessors.org so that you can stay in touch with all of the work we are doing to advocate for change. Follow us on social, share this message, and be the change that you want to see. I believe in you. Be cool.